Hello and welcome back to another episode of Dunk's Movie Corner, our Dunk's Movie Corner podcast, whatever you want to call it. If you are new, this is a weekly kind of recap of what I watch in movie and television show, whatever you want to call it, media, my thoughts on that stuff, suggestions, rambles, everything else that you can possibly think of. It's quick, it's concise sometimes, and more so, it is a companion podcast to the Movie Bros, which is an actual conversation where myself, Duncan, and my brother Hayden pick a movie, watch that movie, and discuss and kind of ramble about it. So, if this seems like a fun time, I would definitely recommend checking that out, as it's even more so an actual conversation. If you are new, you can check this podcast out, of course, on Spotify. This is episode 18, I believe. So there's 17 episodes of rambles you can listen to prior. You can also find the podcast on Instagram at Dunk's Movie Corner Pod, where I post what I'm watching, recaps, all that kind of stuff. And there's quite a bit that I watched this week. Granted, some of it is in series, so I might have it might blend together. Who hell might know? Otherwise, let's just kind of get into it. And if you have questions, comments, compliments, thoughts on anything, there's a comment section on Spotify. There's also direct messages on Instagram there for a reason. Reach out if you feel so inclined. With that, folks, I started the week in 1979. I started this week with, of course, Star Trek the Motion Picture. Now, I should preface it saying I grew up watching Star Trek Next Generation, the one with Picard, Wesley, the like newer quote unquote ish version of this. Then they came out with the movies, the newer movies, the one with Chris Pine as Captain James T. Kirk, and those are actually lots of fun. They're the soundtrack. There's several cinematics. I mean, they're quite good. I would say check those out. However, I had never actually seen the original series or the original set of movies from the late 70s, early 80s. So I just said, screw it, why not check these out? At my Paramount Plus subscription, which again, it's only like $5-6 a month, but I don't really use it, so I canceled it. But I have it until I think November 15th. So I've got a few more days, so I'm trying to watch all the things that I might want to watch before it runs out. So this week I watched a lot of Star Trek. Now, the first one, again, 1979, it definitely shows that it's from 1979. However, yes, I gave it 2.5 out of 5, so it's not terrible, not great. Do I see why? Like, it is definitely like a cult following? Yes, 100%. I don't know if people think Shatner can act or deliver lines, and like I know that's a whole bit of how he like takes his pauses on things, but I don't know. There's it's kind of an odd. I don't know where he picked it up. I don't know if it was a acting teacher or if he just thought it was cool, and now it is almost a trademark of his. There was a good portion of this. There is some. I mean, granted, it is late 70s, but there was some still pretty blatant sexism about the like all dude cast versus like the token chick who doesn't overly do anything, and the men have to step in all the time. It's something that I picked up on. I don't know if you watch this, pick up on that, but it's just something that I noticed. It was still pretty good, and I will say on this one and all the following, the art for this, the posters, the everything. If you Google whatever the movie is, it's actually really cool. It reminds me of old, granted, probably from roughly around the same time, both comic books and like fantasy and scientific sci-fi novels, like the art for that. So again, a 2.5 out of 5. Not great, not terrible. I understand why it's a thing. However, from there, I went to 2023, way ahead to last year, because Hayden and I, because of our kind of like our randomizer for picking movies for us, picked Evil Dead Rise, which is, well, very much not my thing. It is gore horror, Yeah, I mean, we just posted the episode. If you really wanted to hear us talk about it and hear our thoughts and why Hayden loves this kind of shit and I hate this kind of shit, find out there. I give it 1.5 stars. Yeah, how much blood is too much blood? And sometimes just because there's more blood doesn't mean it's more scary. Or if you're gonna do a horror movie, do a horror movie. Don't sprinkle in some comedy because it just feels it just feels awkward. Yes, I know. I feel like I'm probably have said this multiple times, but again, of course, that's the other podcast. So again, check that out. From there, I came back to Star Trek, 1982. So 3 years later, this is Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. This is the one that is constantly referenced, I kind of think, by everyone. And there's a good reason. It's actually really fucking good. Like, not a perfect movie. I wouldn't give it, I mean, I gave it a 3.5 out of 5, which is pretty good. Like, especially for what it is. I don't remember what his name is, but the actor who plays Khan, the bad guy who constantly is quoting Shakespeare the whole time. Man, what a character. That guy should have gotten a fucking Oscar, or at least nomination for this. This was really good. Is it still like kind of corny, hokey, outer space? I think that's why maybe I can't connect with this, because the newer ones, the ones they made by J.J. Abrams with Chris Pine, uh, Enzo Saldana, and of course I can't think of the guy who plays Spock in the new ones, but either way, those ones are so much more action and excitement, whereas these ones are much like slower, cerebral, kind of hippie-ish. I don't really know how, like, they just had a different idea of what outer space and what those kinds of quote unquote adventures would be. However, the Wrath of Khan is definitely the most actiony, exciting one of the bunch, and that's why I think it is mostly reviewed as the best of the bunch. So that's 1982. That's the 3.5 out of 5. You do have to watch the other ones, I will say, to kind of have it all make sense, because they are actually pretty well tied together, but that is by far the best. Speaking from that, I jumped a few years ahead to Manhunter. So this is by Michael Mann, who did Heat. He did Thief with James Caan, which, if you've seen my Letterboxd, which again, if you don't know what Letterboxd is, it's kind of a social media for film. I really liked that. The cinematography, the music, the kind of the slow burn pace. I thought this was hopefully going to be more of that, and to a certain degree it is, but it's the prequel, like it was made prior to Silence of the Lambs, which is the Anthony Hopkins Hannibal Lecter movie. But this doesn't have Anthony Hopkins. It's got the guy from the like super critically acclaimed movie on HBO Max from this last year. God, it's gonna bug me. Oh, okay. Either way, Alex. No, Brian Cox. That's who it is. It's Brian Cox. He is Hannibal, and he's not in it enough. It was pretty good. Like, I could definitely see Michael Mann's style. It definitely felt in the same like filmography as the rest of his stuff, which I do like. A lot of people have very mixed reviews about Ferrari. That was, I think, his most recent one. And again, a lot of that movie is boring and not well paced, and you could have trimmed out, but a lot of it is also really good. It goes hand in hand. Either way, I'm not talking about that. I think I did that on a previous episode even, but Manhunter, I'd say check it out if you want to see like the full, I guess, quote unquote story of Hannibal Lecter. However, then they come back to it basically they remake this movie with Anthony Hopkins, and they've got Edward Norton as the main guy. I like that version better, but again, that's from, I think, 10 to 15 years later. From there, I jumped way ahead to 2022. I thought I just would get rid of it off my watch list because I know it was such a big thing, but The Whale with Brendan Fraser, where he finally got really back into Hollywood. Now he's being cast in things again, which I actually really am glad for. My childhood, like, he was like the dude from The Mummy. Like, he was such a cool, like, not swashbuckling, but like adventure guy. He was like the newer, like, I feel like he could have been the newer version of Indiana Jones. That's kind of how I felt. And then I think it's fairly public, but a lot of Hollywood kind of ate him alive. He didn't like fame did not work well for him. He kind of fell off the face of the earth. Yeah, it was honestly kind of a sad story. A lot of things just kind of didn't work out for him professionally. And then, of course, he resurfaced with this. He won his Oscar. Michelle Keane, Kiwan Kwan, all the people from Everything Everywhere All at Once. Like it was that good year where the people who like I don't know had been passed over for so long finally got their due diligence, which was great. I don't know. I felt that being said, all that stuff aside, all the like the social part of this, the actual movie itself of The Whale, which he won for. I didn't love the movie, if I'm being honest. I gave it a 2 out of 5. Like I get why he won. Like he's got a physical transformation that he I think he sells very well. The actual story, the pacing, what actually I mean, it wasn't really that good. There wasn't a lot of development in characters at all. No one really changed. There wasn't exactly like something to root for or against. Like it just was kind of a like I don't know. I just didn't have a good time watching it, both for like making me feel either positive or negative. It was just kind of meh movie. So that's why, again, I'm glad for all the other things that happened because of it, but the movie itself I didn't love. From there, I stayed in 2022, which was, again, that was The Whale, to watch How to Blow Up a Pipeline. Now, if you've never heard of this, not many people have. This, I believe, was nominated for like an independent, lots of independent awards because this was uh, not a big commercial run. I don't even know if this came into theaters. I remember seeing this. It might have done an Oscar. Maybe that was what I was. Remember where I caught it from? Either way, it's been on my watch list for a long time. The poster's cool looking. It follows like 7 or 6 early to mid 20s, either college or college dropout, or just environmental activists who want to like really do something, which they think is a good thing, which is blowing up a pipeline, and it's I think the story has great pacing. The characters there's actually reasons why you want to watch this and why you want to make sure either A, they succeed, or if they don't, or why just why their reasons for doing this matters. It breaks down each of their own individual little backstories while they're still building up to them blowing it up. I don't really want to spoil anything just because you might watch this. I believe it's on Hulu right now, which again, my Hulu subscription is also running out, so I'm trying to catch up quickly to all the things that are on my watch list there to kind of get it out of the way before I lose access. But this was really good. It's uh, I don't think it's crazy long. I think it's less than 2 hours. If you have a chance, I would watch it. It does make you feel kind of shitty about the climate situation here on Earth, but I think that's important to at least notice if that's not anything that's already on your radar. No, you don't have to be a activist, but you at least should be aware of the issue. I gave this a 4 out of 5, so no, maybe not like my favorite movie of all time, but it's something I could definitely recommend to most. I don't want to say this in a mean way, but intelligent people. Like there's lots of I don't know. There's lots of people that I've met where I'm like, oh, we have very different. Granted, maybe this is the time of the year where I'm just thinking of these kind of things, especially with the election just happening. But people have very different political views, both close people that I know and just acquaintances. But this is one that has kind of very specific. It's not propaganda, but it's very clear its stance on climate and things that surround climate. So there are some people that I may not recommend this to, but generally saying I would. That, I don't know if it was a ramble that made any kind of sense. However, from there, I jumped back into Star Trek, because again, I'm trying to kind of power through these. I watched Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock. Again, if you look at the poster for this, it's like, it's so cool looking. It definitely looks like something off a sci-fi book that I picked up for $1 at the used bookstore or something like that. Those like, not hardcover, the one that will fit in your pocket. You can take on the train or on a boat or something and read in like a day and a half. It's very enjoyable. Either way, That aside, the movie, uh, again, like I said before, The Wrath of Khan is like the well-known good one. All the other ones, this one included, it directly follows the events of number 2, so if you don't see that, you can't see number 3. I think that's obvious, but some people I've met will go into watching a sequel without having watching the original of something, which is bananas. It's much more cerebral. It's much more like high concept, not as much action. I I didn't love it. I gave it a 2 out of 5. It features William Shatner. I mean, his character, James T. Kirk, the like captain of the Enterprise. Yes, this is gonna get nerdy. Fucking deal with it. It's his kid, apparently. Again, it sort of looks like him. If he was a much beefier, larger dude. In real life, I never realized just how small and kind of dainty William Shatner is. Which there's a several times where they put him next to like big beefcakes, and he looks like this little baby boy. And anytime where they have to like quote unquote fight, I was like, dude, you would definitely get your ass kicked by literally anyone here. But all the action is it's like soft, very soft violence, if that makes any kind of sense. Either way, I would definitely say you could watch the first one, watch the second one, Wrath of Khan. You could maybe stop there, to be honest, and because again, I'm still grinding through these. I just finished number 5, which I'll talk about in a second. But that being said, from 1984 with Star Trek 3, I then continued with, which I gave 2.5 out of 5. I watched Star Trek 4, which is The Voyage Home. And again, the poster, super cool. Just saying, all this stuff feels very 80s sci-fi. I can't stress that enough. That's my shit. This is where they have to jump back into the past. The concept for this one is I don't know how they greenlit this. If you notice, they go back and forth. The directors are either William Shatner, so he's directing this shit, which I think it kind of shows, or it's Leonard Nimoy, which is Spock, and it's just I don't know if it always works if the main actor is like directing what he is also in. Sometimes there's too much bias in that for editing and direction choices. Sometimes that works out. If anyone saw the first Quiet Place with Jim Halpert from The Office, that was really good, and he directed that. There are other better options or better examples, but I'm just saying sometimes I don't think it works well, and I think this is an example of it. They go back in the past to steal humpback whales from an aquarium to bring to the future so that the whales can communicate with this alien probe which only speaks in whale song that might be threatening the Earth. It is the most weird, dumb, like the weirdest shit. Is it like 100 minutes that I may not ever get back? Yeah. So if you look, my ratings for these start low, go high with number 2, and then slowly start creeping back down. Like number 3 was 2.5. This one I think was a 2 out of 5. I just finished Star Trek: The Final Frontier, which again I would give it probably about a 2. But before I talk about number 5, after number 4, which was The Voyage Home, I showed a friend who had never they had never seen Dead Poet Society, and I don't know why I have had this inkling of rewatching this. Like serious, Robin Williams is so good. Uh, I don't know. I just there's lots of his stuff that I haven't seen. Like I haven't seen Mrs. Doubtfire. I haven't seen Good Morning Vietnam. That being said, he's such a talented person, comically, such a talented person, comedically, excuse me. And when he does actual serious roles like this and Good Will Hunting are fantastic. Granted, I think it's not just his acting, but it's literally everything else about those movies. But I had seen this before. My friend did not. I wanted to show them this. I gave this a 4.5 out of 5. It is almost a perfect movie for me. I don't really know where I would improve it, but I mean, Ethan Hawke as a young fellow, the guy from House, like the show House. I mean, there's several people who you're gonna recognize, but all the robes and like the suit jackets everyone wears that are corduroy. Sometimes I really like pinpoint on the costume design. I really want that kind of stuff. Maybe that's just my style, but all the stuff, all the poetry references, all the like life lessony like carpe diem stuff that Robin Williams kind of tries to teach to these young impressionable boys. Granted, I think the first time I saw this, I was around that age, and that's why this really hit so hard for me. And I was actually talking about someone recently where A, there's the movie itself, there's the environment you see that movie in, like your movie watching experience, and there's the time of your life that you're watching the movie. All these factors can make or break a movie. So even if the movie's great, but the way you watch it is terrible, or if the part of your life isn't really the time of your life that you should be watching this kind of movie, like if all those three don't line up, it's not as good as like two or three of the three line up. Just something that I've been finding more and more relevant. Like a movie watching experience, especially, can make such a difference. So either if it's a one-off movie theater, or if it's at home on a projector screen, or if it's on your phone, or there's so many different ways to consume media, and I just think that's something that's a lot more important than people. Excuse me, a lot more important than people think. I didn't log this, but throughout the week, folks, I am still again watching through Normal People. That's the Paul Mescal and Daisy Edgar Jones serious sadness romance series on Hulu. And I'm also slowly working through The Penguin. I know I think I talk about this every week. Both of these series, I think I've got 2 episodes left of The Penguin, and I think I've got probably 4 or 5 left of Normal People. So you're gonna hear this probably at least for a week or 2 more. So just gonna have to deal with that. They are both great. I would recommend both of them to almost anyone. Just 10 out of 10 would recommend. Would definitely recommend. So again, after Dead Poet Society, which was 1989, 4.5, almost a perfect movie. I went back to Star Trek because I don't know if it's my OCD, if it's the old tism sneaking through, but I find it very hard to either not finish something that I've started. I mean, if I want to ramble, I could also say my room and everything else is very clean and well kept. Maybe for that reason, maybe it's so my dog doesn't fuck up everything. I don't know, I like organization, I like lists, I like my color-coded calendar. That's just me. Either way. So, once I started all these Star Trek movies, I didn't wanna not finish them. I felt like I had to give it the whole go around. So, this is number 5, Star Trek, 5: The Final Frontier. This was like, you could watch this again, it references the other one slightly, but you could almost watch this on its own. I'd still give it a 2 out of 5. It's not very good. It's much more it's high concept, less action. Again, not maybe a high budget, or maybe just not a high budget for the time. It almost feels like some of these movies at least feel like these were TV movies, which I mean, a lot of this stuff was on like the Sci-Fi Channel, so it was TV movies, or BBC or PBS or whatever the right thing was called at the time. But I am glad they exist, just because they exist, the new iterations exist, which obviously I also enjoy. After this, I might watch all the movies that are, if I have time before my subscription runs out, I might watch the movies with the like uh, Captain Picard, which is Sir Patrick Stewart. I might run through those real quick because I think I might enjoy those more because that's what I grew up with. If you grew up with that stuff, or if you grew up with the originals, depending on your age, let me know. If you like, dislike, have recommendations, whatever. So I might check that out. But that was a bit of a ramble. Yes, it was quick. No, I don't touch on any one movie a ton, or at least I try not to, because this is just kind of a quick recap. I don't want this to be a hour-long just endeavor for people to have to kind of sit through, because it is just me talking. So if you get tired of, if you know me, like maybe I'm your friend and you really want to hear your friend talk at you for an hour, no, that seems ridiculous. Even right now, it's about half an hour, and I still think that's crazy. If it's a conversation, that's another thing. Again, that's where Hayden and I on the Movie Bros podcast, we spend anywhere from at least 30 to sometimes over an hour talking about one movie. It's an actual discussion, there's banter, there's rambling. It's a much better time. Not that I don't love just talking into the ether on my own, but just something you might want to check out if you actually have other interests beyond the old Dunks Movie Corner. With that, folks, that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That was 10 movies in a week. Jesus. Yeah, it's been a heavy week, so we'll see how much of this I trim down. We'll see how much I watch next week. Just it really depends week to week. Some weeks it's 4 movies. Obviously, some weeks it's 10. You can tell the weeks where I have some free time where I don't go to the park with my dog because it's pouring rain or whatever, and I stay inside and watch a movie. If you have recommendations again, if you think I should be watching something that you're watching or anything like that, let me know. Otherwise, you can like, subscribe, hit the bell, do all the things, tell your friends, your parents, your brothers, your sisters, your cats, your dogs. Yeah, spread the word. Otherwise, hang in there till next week.